Good evening. You're very welcome to this week's episode of Centre Ground. And tonight, really positive story. The spotlight is on her story and the amazing project that took place earlier this month, where images were projected onto iconic buildings right around Ireland. My guests are Melanie Lynch. Melanie is the CEO and the founder and creative director of Herstory. Myriam Riand is a photographer, and Áine O Brien is a conceptual artist. And as always, in the second half of the programme, Dr. Peter Dunn will introduce the hot topic of the week. And as you can see this evening, Peter is blessed among women. Before we get down to the programme, I invite you to go to the Irish Inquiry website. There's a drop-down box there which says help us, and you can enter details of any technical skills that you can share with us, or alternatively, if you want to donate a few bob towards the upkeep of the Irish Inquiry platform. We don't have sponsorship and there is no advertising, so we are dependent on voluntary donations to keep the platform running. Well, as I said, the spotlight tonight is on Herstory, and my first guest is Melanie Lynch. Melanie is the founder and creative director and CEO of Herstory. You're very welcome to Centre Ground, Melanie.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks for having me. A fellow Westmeath woman.
Right, I didn't know actually that you were from Westmeath. Well, I'm not actually from Westmeath, I'm from Meath, but I have strong Westmeath connections, having been a teacher there for 33 years. So
very well aware, yeah, Rochford Bridge.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, okay, well that's a small world. Yeah, really small world. So Melanie, tell me a little bit about your background and how Herstory came about.
Yeah, so I suppose my background is in communications. I worked for some of the most award-winning advertising agencies in the world. I worked for Barclay Bubble Hegarty in London, Fred and Farid in Paris, and I suppose I'm a born socialist by nature. So it's a very strange place for the advertising industry is a very strange place for a socialist. But I was doing amazing work for the non-profit sector, for the charity sector, for NGOs, and that was keeping me alive until one day I woke up, I suppose, on a trip to Kenya, and I thought, God, there's got to be something better I can do with all these amazing communication skills that I've acquired. So I did some deep soul searching, and I suppose one discovery led to the next. I was running the Heart of Ireland Festival in Mullingar with my mum, and we made these incredible discoveries about local women. Josephine Hart, for example, her story. It's the local school children have never heard of her. You know, even in the school where Josephine went to school, they never heard of her story. And they could tell me what Kim Kardashian had for breakfast when we met with the local 11-year-old, fifth class students. And I thought, God, this is so sad. And she's one of my great icons because she overcame so much personal tragedy to inspire a generation of writers and poets. She was an incredible author and theatre producer and director, and just an all-round heart of gold, really, a really beautiful person. And then, like, when we started the Heart of Ireland Festival in 2015, her family home was bulldozed down and turned into a car park, but at the same time, the local powers that be wanted to build a museum to Niall Horan, and he was 21 years old, you know, a young superstar musician in One Direction. He even thought the idea was quite absurd to build a museum to a 21-year-old. Come on, like. But it was just the polarity between the treatment of a local woman, a brilliant local woman, and then this young local guy, brilliant guy as well. And I just thought, wow, I've got to do something about this. And then at the same time, a friend introduced me to a book called Wild Irish Women, and I recognised 5 of the 75 names, and I was flabbergasted. This is really strange. Where did all the women go? And I started Herstory really inspired by those 2 big discoveries, and then I remember it was a few months old, and I sat down with the Royal Irish Academy, and they said to me, look, we've got something to tell you. We've counted the number of women in the Dictionary of Irish Biography. And any guess how many women are in the Dictionary of Irish Biography?
I have no idea.
So all of these women could be in the school books. That's important to note. They're all worthy of being taught in the curriculum. There's over 1,000 biographies, but there's about a handful of women in the curriculum, Irish women. So it was just this, like, the scale of the discovery was massive. And that's when I sat down with RT and I said, look, we have to do something about this, but it has to have scale, and we have to create resources that are designed for the school curriculum. That was very important, because it'll take a long time. I hope it won't take too long, but it will take time for the school books to be rewritten so they include men and women equally, and on all genders and in between. But until that day, we had to make the resources available. So that's when we commissioned the Herstory and RTE Epic Productions. It's the first ever comprehensive women's storytelling platform on Ireland's national broadcaster, and it featured a 6-part documentary TV series created by Underground Films, a multi-award-winning film production company. We also had a beautiful animation series, which I'm very proud of. We asked the young people of Ireland who their heroines were, and they sent us these amazing stories. It was really insightful. They put equal emphasis on what we would describe as, I suppose, patriarchal definitions of success, like your ability to fly to the moon and, break world records. But they also thought that it was just as important to be compassionate and caring. They put great emphasis on the caring professions. I thought that was beautiful insight into the future generations, like almost prophetic of our times, pre-COVID. Our young people were telling us, actually, it's more important, our common humanity and looking out and caring for each other than, breaking world records and being super successful and earning lots of money and all that kind of jazz. So I thought it was really insightful. I was really proud of the young people of Ireland. I thought, wow, I love the next generation. I'm so inspired by them. That was really gorgeous. And we also had a beautiful podcast series that was produced by Underground Films as well, 18-part series. It's all available. It's a permanent educational resource. It's available on rte.ie/herstory. And there's a microsite there as well with all the stories. That was really amazing. An amazing production that we produced last year. And then within 3 days of the last TV series airing, the pandemic hit and the schools closed. So we went from kind of one form of chaos to another, and we've been in it was a great creative process since then, really rethinking where does her story need to lead in the future, and how can we be of inspiration, I suppose, and transformation for the next generations coming up, but also my generation too. So it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, maybe, Melanie, we'll have a look at the first of 2 video clips, and this one is a short video clip that captures your involvement with RTE and her story. So if you can roll it there, Stephen, please.
The measure of any society is how it treats its women and girls. Your story is my story.
They broke boundaries, but never made the history books.
Had she not changed her gender, she would never have had the opportunity to study.
It's women and girls. We create the smart, powerful, creative.
She jumped from 1,700 feet and successfully landed.
Your story is my story.
She was extraordinarily bright, so she was ahead of the posse.
By choosing their own path, they changed the world.
And Melanie, I've done a little bit of research on this, and I've noted that this has been a huge success for RTE.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. Just a transformational success, and also for her story too. Actually, we've been made an official resource of the school curriculum, which is a huge honour. And it's great to hear the feedback from teachers on the impact that it's having on young girls and young boys. They have authentic, female heroines. But one thing I forgot to mention, actually, that TV series, none of it would have been possible, the whole production, without the phenomenal support of our partners, EPIC, the Irish Emigration Museum. It was probably the most authentic sponsorship, partnership, collaboration you could ever have. I suppose my background is in advertising and communications, and I'm very protective of her story and its authenticity, just like the way you are with the Irish Inquiry. would be very wary about sponsorship and advertising. But I reached out to Mervyn Green because I have huge respect for the quality of his museum, his productions, would be on a par to Paris and Berlin, really. I mean, it is the cutting edge of, they won, I think it's Ireland, or it's Europe's #1 tourist attraction 2 years in a row. So it's really extraordinary museum experience. I'd highly recommend visiting them. And I reached out to Mervyn previously, actually, the RTE TV series, and we actually co-produced the first ever women's exhibition to tour in the Irish Embassy Network worldwide. And it features the stories of 21 Irish diaspora women. It's called Blazing a Trail, and it's currently touring the world. It's been at the United Nations headquarters in New York and the Council of Europe in Strasbourg. So that's really a big labour of love, and that sparked the Herstory TV series from there.
Oh, for somebody so young, I'm absolutely flabbergasted at your creative energy and just how much you have achieved in such a short space of time. Now, I know that you have a couple, well, not a couple, you have quite a number of images that you want to talk us through. Oh, yes. So I'll leave that to you, Melanie.
Yeah, so what happened was I was meditating back in 2016, and you're not supposed to be having ideas when you meditate, but I had this epiphany about lighting up Ireland with women, because we light up the world green on St Patrick's Day, so why not light up in honour of women, say on Nollaig na Man initially, and now on Bridget's Day. So we're running a campaign to make Bridget's Day a national holiday, and we're asking all the followers tonight, please, whatever you do, sign the petition, because we're going to be presenting it to Leo Varadkar on the equinox on the 20th of March. So we decided to light up Ireland with women, and it just took off. It went viral in the first year. It's had huge traction ever since. This is Bridget by Courtney Davis, wonderful artist base on the Hill of Tara. His art illuminating the GPO here. And we've been lighting up landmarks and sacred sites in Ireland and internationally now for 4 years running. But this year we did something very special. It was a hugely healing, cathartic process for our team. We decided that we would do a very special pilgrimage of light in honour of all who suffered as a result of the mother and baby homes, because it's a very raw, very deep wound in Ireland. It's very much live in the collective psyche, and we don't know how to process it. And myself and a team of very brilliant women and men, actually, we came together and we thought, well, how can we help to heal this wound? And I actually have first and second generation survivors in my team as well. So it's a really personal healing process. So we might show that video next, actually. This is the beautiful light show that we created in honor of all those who suffered, a healing light show.
Go molta breda on vanille herren on van legach tiri molamish galeri Lochran gal na lainoch a sail she fall na tira Ciawn rog veran Ciawn man mina Dig an year a diandov a yara and a yara ach lole brida Garduin
So that film was
You know,
Peter Martin. He's a very talented videographer, yeah. Filmmaker.
yeah, Melanie, just, you know, the pain, just the intense, incredible pain that's there coming down through the generations, and words actually can't capture that pain, but your artwork, your creativity, the singing, the music, and all of that actually captures it and kind of brings us to an emotional place where words can't take us.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of art and the power of music and light. I think music and light, when you combine them together, can be transformational, and it can really spark the healing process. And that's been hugely heartwarming to hear the feedback from survivors of how much it has helped. It sparked their healing. That, you know, some people who haven't been able to cry have finally been able to cry, the release they're getting, and the healing and the honouring of the mother and the honouring of the child and the baby as an innocent, really. You know, it's such a pure, innocent being. Like a child can't feel anger, can't feel so many emotions, complexities of depth that an adult can. But this child is so sweet, so innocent. And to reclaim that is very important. That's why I wanted to work with Myriam Riand and Áine O Brien. I saw their incredibly powerful Breastfeeding Madonna image. It was shared with me by a very dear friend of mine, Susan Quirk. We had worked together on the Stand for Truth campaign when the Pope came to Ireland, and we've continued that process since behind the scenes, really looking at how we can reclaim the sacred feminine and all women as goddesses, really, to step up into our true light and our true power, and to reclaim the mother as well and the archetype for ourselves that it's always been dictated and defined by church and state. But it really is, it's our archetype, but it's very important that as women we redefine it for ourselves. And it can mean something different for all of us. It's very important. It's open to the artistic process. And I think Myriam and Áine created something very, very special in the Sovereignty Project. So it was a huge honour to work with them. I know they're going to share their work soon with us all. So we can just flick through the next few images and I'll just talk you through the process. So we also illuminated with very powerful artworks from the Stay With Me show, curated by Alison O'Reilly and Rachel Keown. Alison O'Reilly was the original journalist who, I suppose, blew the whistle on the mother and baby homes and worked in collaboration with Katherine Corliss going back to 2014. And they've curated this incredibly powerful show. Artists from all around the world have shared their images. So the next one this is Trapped in Emma Horgan. These are very powerful. Hauntology Blue. There's a series actually by Katie Ryle. And then we had these stunning portrait photographs by Karen Morgan, and we illuminated them on Sean Ross Abbey. It's a former mother and baby home. It's the iconic red door where you probably remember from the Philomena film. It was nominated for an Oscar about the harrowing story of Philomena, who lost her child, and her experience of being at Sean Ross Abbey. And this is the eyes of Sharon, and it's quite poignant for me because her daughter was stolen from her, really, the same year that I was born, and I was technically born illegitimate too. I was born out of wedlock, and I didn't know this at the time, of course, and I didn't actually know what the word illegitimate meant until I was 16, and I asked my mum. So I was just one of the lucky few. We could have been in a mother and baby home. It's very close to the bone for us. Myself and my mum went on a very healing process. We travelled across Ireland to the light show together. She was my wing woman through the whole process, and it was just absolutely heart-wrenching to hear the stories of the women who had their children stolen, and knowing that it could have been us. And it's so close to the bone for so many women. But that mother wound it's very, very deep, and it's very raw, and we need to do big work to heal that wound. Big work to heal that wound in Ireland. And I think the arts and creativity has a huge role to play. And it's only the beginning of the journey. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot more work in this area. We want to take the light show next to the GPO and to Dublin as well, to the capital. So well, let's see what other images are there. I think I have a few more beautiful shots. This is Katherine Corliss, of course, the wonderful local historian in Tuam who did the research and uncovered all the lost babies, all the lost souls. And led to healing. Yeah.
Sorry for disturbing you. Where was the image of Katherine Corliss projected? What building was it projected onto?
Well, she was illuminated on Galway City Museum and on Sean Ross Abbey and on Belvedere House as well, and looking forward to lighting up in the GPO next and back to Dublin. It's beautiful to honour her because she's done the incredible work and actually paid for it out of her own pocket. A lot of people don't realise that she's never been reimbursed either for all of the death certs that she paid for herself, research. So she's a woman of incredible integrity and a huge healing catalyst for Ireland, because this is our science, this is our lost history that we need to rediscover and uncover. And this is the iconic Irish Examiner front cover that we were gifted by the editor and the team. It was researched by Donal O'Keefe, brilliant journalist and researcher in Cork, and we projected this amazing cover, all the names of the babies from Bessborough who died in Bessborough, onto iconic buildings. So you can see them next on, the buildings are there. Athlone Castle. I just felt very strongly that we had to illuminate the women and the children on castles to give them the royal treatment that they never received the love. It wasn't enough just to illuminate them on the buildings where they suffered. And then you'll see next on, this is Belvedere House and Gardens. It's the Jealous Wall. It's the largest folly in Ireland. It's very powerful, very healing.
Oh, yeah. I'm just bowled over by what you have just shared with me. I have to be honest with you. I did know a little bit about it, but you have just articulated it so incredibly well. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you, Melanie. You are amazingly inspiring, the work that you have done and the work that you've commissioned. And I just want to thank you so much for that. And we will come back to you later on in the programme. And I think that it's probably a good time now to bring in Myriam and Áine.
Hi, Anna. Thanks for having us.
Hello. I call you girls because you're so young, and so for anybody who has tuned in since the start of the program, Myriam, you are a photographer, and Áine, you are a conceptual artist. So Melanie commissioned you to do some work for St Bridget's Day. So I leave it over to you then to talk me through it.
Well, thank you so much. We can maybe start with the image that connected us with Melanie in the first place, which is the first image to be presented there. It's the Breastfeeding Madonna. And this was a concept that Áine came up with back in November. Do you want to explain how you visualize it in the first place?
Just when the story of the mother and baby homes resurfaced in our news, I'm about the unseal, or they sealed the documents or something. I just felt this overwhelming anger that we are still kind of sweeping things under the carpet, and that the poor survivors who are like trying to move out of this are still revisiting the trauma over and over again. And as a society, we owe them something more. So I wanted to do something to, I don't know, I'm not sure. I just wanted to do something. And the only thing I can do is art. So I just had this image, this vision came to me. I was like, I want to reclaim the mother and baby, especially because the whole juxtaposition is that the church honor this mother and child, but then in reality, completely traumatized mothers and children. And started researching a breastfeeding Madonna and realized that in the 14th century, it was quite natural and normal to have a breastfeeding Madonna. And then they decided around the times of witch trials to get rid of this image because it was too personable, or I'm not sure, it was too sexual. They decided that it was a sexual thing to breastfeed your child, so they got rid of them. So in light of all of that, I rang Myriam, talented photographer that lives just down the road from me here. We're very lucky in Clare that there's so many artists, and asked her if she would be willing to do this image with me. And she said yes. It was like an artistic activism, I suppose. And the model is not a model, it's a completely normal human being who we know called Hildy Dilch. And that is her baby, who is a girl as well. So her baby Jesus is Susie. And it was a beautiful experience for both of us.
Yeah, it was great.
It really was.
And when Melanie actually first called us about the image to talk about it and talk about possibly creating some more, she said that straight away she knew that it was a female-led team, which like completely connected us straight away, and instantly like the communication was perfect, and we were just like, the synchronicity in the whole project was just so magical, and it kind of permitted things to escalate to a level that we never could anticipate, and take the project to, like, I don't know, a new grounds. And we never thought that it'd be projected on big buildings and be displayed in such a way. So it was just really empowering for us, and hopefully it inspired many who viewed it as well.
Mm-hmm. Áine, can I just ask you a favor, please? You're out of you're off camera. So if you could,
that's where
yes.
Me. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And yes, you're okay. And so if you could just kind of focus yourself on the camera, just look at the camera, that's absolutely perfect. And in case you don't know it, I'm a retired teacher, so the teacher is coming out in me.
Grand, yeah. No bother. So
okay. So then Melanie commissioned you then to put together, based on that beautiful Madonna, I haven't seen it, she commissioned you then to put together some images then for St Bridget's Day. So can you tell me about that?
So it was a commission of 8 images altogether. So I suppose we don't really have time to talk through all of them. So we just selected 4 of them to talk about.
Yes.
So we wanted to cover as many types of Irish women as possible. The aim of the project was for every woman in Ireland to be able to recognize themselves in at least one image. And we made a list of the topics and the women that we wanted to cover, and made it our goal to find real women with real stories that would contribute to our images. So once we find these women, we interviewed them, and we wrote Áine wrote a diary about them and developed concepts around the images, and then together we worked on creating visuals that would work with their story. So the first image we'd like to talk about is the Black Madonna. It's Adoration. There's the next one. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's the one we want to talk about. And that was it the first shoot that we did? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. First commission shoot. Yeah. One of basically myself and Myriam were very adamant that every model was an authentic mother or an authentic woman, that they had real stories and that we could share their real stories. And this woman, Joanne, really stuck out in my mind because I had worked with her before in the theatre profession. And I remember her telling me about her struggle being the mother of a mixed race boy. And when we, myself and Myriam, when we started researching the project, Melanie suggested that we would travel to Tuam and sit in the what is now a grave, sit in the gravesite of the Tuam babies and look for inspiration. And that's really, Melanie has really been like this amazing mentor and tutor for us as artists. So by doing that, we went up to Tuam and we sat there. And what came to mind for me was that, first of all, I'll reiterate what Melanie said about the babies are innocent and that they're free, but it's the pain that we carry with the thoughts of them. So it's like, how do we best honor that? And in these homes, it has been written and said and told many times in many stories that mixed race children were treated the worst of all those poor babies. So I wanted to represent that. And And then the other element of that photograph would be that we wanted to show that, it's the boy in this situation, in this photo, is forgiving his mother, forgiving the past, and also adoring the mother, because we can't really become queens unless we're crowned. So we have to be kind of almost given this permission to like step into our beauty and our queendom. We have to like be crowned and be given permission to stand into that role. So that's what that photo is representing for me. And Joanne's story is so intense as well, in that her own mother, when she was in London in her 20s, gave birth to a mixed race son, and then decided that she couldn't bring that boy back to Ireland, and sent him with the father back to Ethiopia when he was 2 years old. I went back to Ireland, and then went on and had Joanne and all her brothers and sisters. And it wasn't until her mother was dead that the story came out, and they found the birth certificate of this boy that never saw his mom again, and she never saw her child again. So that story was really important for me to show and to write about as well, so that people understood that this is, the shame of that. And it's a really deep and a difficult topic. And the fact that we can create art and kind of touch on it, but make it beautiful and try and spark some healing, was an amazing opportunity for both of us, I think.
Mm-hmm. An incredible story.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell me about the next image?
Sure.
Yep.
You fire away. You start, Myriam. This is how we're working it. Yeah.
Oh, this was the last photo we did actually in the whole commission, and we had another image featuring a mixed race little girl, but we definitely wanted a Black woman as part of the overall series, to kind of show like the different cultures that are coming into Ireland now, and just all the different kind of people that are out there. And when we were researching somebody who would be happy to participate, Nadine kind of appeared on our radar, and she's a TV presenter here in Dublin, and she was absolutely like her energy was just intoxicating, and she was just such an inspiration. And so we really wanted to do a Black Madonna for this one, and so we went to Dublin, and we photographed her, and we really wanted to kind of create a real ancient icon figure. So we took lots of inspiration from the wooden iconography, and tried to recreate that through the color palette and through the textures. And Áine was great for that, like creating all these costumes for it, and she really kind of took on the persona, and she was divine. And we wanted her to put her right in the streets of Dublin, to have like an environment that was recognizable. And so many people who've seen the image knew exactly where it was taken just from like looking at the street. So it's just like, it's all about the presence in the environment that was really important for people to be able to connect to it, I suppose. Do you want to tell a bit about Nadine's stories?
So what's so beautiful about this project is that every model was adding to the stories that we were trying to tell, and telling us more and informing us more about their own personal lives. So Nadine, when we were on the shoot, informed me she's actually a makeup artist. And she said she'd worked all over the world and with so many different races of people, but she'd never met a culture of women that hated themselves as much as the Irish women. And that really struck a chord with me, because we're so ashamed of ourselves, the Irish women. We just, even if she spent an hour and a half making you beautiful, an Irish woman would still turn around and go, oh, I'm not sure, or my nose is out of place, or, my eyelash isn't right, or, it was just, it was really lovely to get that perspective. And when I was writing the concept, I really wanted to focus on that thing of being full of yourself. you know, that it was a bad thing to have confidence growing up in Ireland. It was like, oh, if you believed in yourself, it was a negative thing. And we've all may have said it to somebody, oh, she's full of herself, or, oh, you know, or heard it said about you. And I thought that was really important to reclaim that and own that space again for ourselves. And I'm the mother of 2 girls, and I want them to be full of themselves. I also want them to be kind, but I really want them to be full of themselves and to be unashamedly to believe in themselves, you know. So Nadine really offered that to us by sharing her story with us on that day. And another really interesting thing happened because we were shooting in the Liberties. One local woman came out of her house, and she came over to us, and we told her what we were trying to do, and, you know, to re-empower the Irish woman and give her some, just confidence to stand up and be her queen, you know. And she told us that the mother and baby homes, she was like, none of her people ever ended up in the mother and baby homes. She said that the Liberties women were always looked down upon, but in the end, none of their girls ended up there, and they all came together as a community. If there was a woman who got pregnant outside of marriage, that they all looked after that woman. And then really beautifully, a little girl, a mixed race little girl, came out of a doorway and shouted, "Nana, Nana!" And she ran over to the woman that we were talking to. So even her, like, just the acceptance of that, of the Liberties and their culture and community, their sense of community you couldn't have written it. It was just absolutely amazing. What an experience. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about this image.
So this is actually a 2-part image. So part 1 and part 2, entitled Letting Go. And for this one, we wanted a traveller woman to be featured. And Trish came from Athlone, and she's an activist and a musician. And she also had a very powerful story that Áine researched and wrote about. And all these stories can be found on the diary that's
on her story,
on her story website, amongst all the images. And there you'd be able to find all the photos from behind the scenes and all the B shots. These are all the final shots that we selected. But for this one, we really wanted to have 2 kind of conjoining shots telling a story. And I really like this one. It's really powerful because we really wanted to take the image of the wishing tree, with all the ribbons representing the Tuam babies that are being prayed for, as she's almost like chanting for them. And it was such a beautiful shoot. She was singing the whole time. She was praying and talking about her experiences. And there's so much joy in this image. And we wanted to talk about the weight lifted with letting go of pain, and the empowerment of letting go, acknowledging pain and letting go of it, the grief of it. And that's also highlighted in the second part of letting go, which is we took on the beach with where she's looking at, she's accepting, and she's looking inward, and there's a solemn, I wouldn't say sad, but there's definitely like a hopeful look in her eyes. So yeah. Do you want to tell a bit more about your story?
I'll give you a bit of fun now, in that like, I found myself in a field with 800 pieces of material, tying it onto a farmer's tree on a rainy afternoon to try and create this piece. So I was half laughing at myself and also incredibly sad, because I was trying to represent every baby's name that I read when we were up in Tuam that time. And the image actually came to me when we were sitting in that garden in Tuam where the babies are. And it was like that. It was the fiery tree. It was like, you know, the burning bush, because I love the Catholic iconography that I grew up with, you know, and all the stories and the images. Like, I love it. I just hate what has happened since, you know. So that burning bush of, like, you can be on fire with anger or grief or anything, but to not be consumed by it. So that was the crutch. And through talking to Trish's story is incredible, where she was taken from her traveller home from her mother with 3 other siblings and put into an industrial school. She still to this day doesn't know why. And her mum was illiterate, so she couldn't get her back. Every week she would go to the nuns and be like, "Can I have my children back?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, read the forms and then come and sign them and come back, or do this or that." But she couldn't read, so she never got her children back. And we spoke at length about moving out and above, and kind of trying to translate grief into a more positive space. So that was the mission with Letting Go. Because we've done the anger, we're doing the anger, the resentment, pain, the whole thing. Is like, where do we go from here, and how do we shift it or move it, transform it into something else, and move above and beyond it, you know, which is extremely difficult. It's just I can't even imagine. I mean, I only touched the surface by listening to her sing songs, and tie those ribbons on the tree and cry for the kids. I only touched it. I didn't live it. And I'm traumatized even just from listening to the stories. So there's so much work to do. And thank you for this platform, for sharing our story now, and for listening. And Jesus, and to Melanie for giving us this opportunity to explore all of these amazing women, and for healing. Like, through trying to heal others, we're actually healing ourselves. And that's what's so important about art, is that, you know, as we're trying to share, we're also healing ourselves. And the more people that are healing, the more people that will heal, you know. That's it.
Just an amazing, incredible sharing there from you, Myriam, and Áine. And I have to say that I have the honour of knowing Trish.
Great.
Yeah, I have collaborated with her on a couple of projects. I did a series where I took the flame of St Bridget down the River Shannon, and Trish was actually one of the people who accompanied me on part of that journey. And yeah, and she, you know, you're speaking about the mother and baby. You wouldn't be aware of this, but I'm part of a group called the Alliance of Birth Mothers Campaigning for Justice, and the ABC actually advocates on behalf of mothers whose children are taken nowadays. People think that it all happened in the past, but in actual fact, it's happening very, very much in the present. And when we were launching our report in Dublin back in 2019, Trish was one of the people that was at the launch, and she actually sang that incredible ballad that she has written, which is about her own time spent in the industrial school. So
that's awful. I've heard the song. It's haunting. Yeah.
It is. Well, ladies, for once, I'm actually speechless. Yeah, and I'll tell you why I'm speechless. Because your sharing goes to a place where there are no words to describe what is happening, you know. It's. I suppose you've certainly taken me, and I'm sure you've taken many of our listeners tonight, many of our viewers, to a space in our hearts where it's beyond words. It's absolutely incredible. So I just want to thank you, Melanie and Myriam and Áine. And I suppose at this stage now, we'll go over to Peter, who has been waiting quietly and patiently in the wings. And as always, Peter, I know that you're very good at kind of bringing together and doing a short commentary on what you have just listened to. So I know that you will probably do that tonight, as usual, before you introduce the hot topic.
Thanks very much, Anna. And again, some wonderful contributions from Melanie, Myriam, and Áine. When Melanie spoke about all of the women who remain largely unknown, and who now have thankfully secured a place in the curriculum resources for the schools, I was minded of one, perhaps the most famous lady here from my own village of Clogherhead, and I'm not sure if maybe some of our viewers may have heard of her, or indeed yourselves guys, Jenny Hodgers. Jenny Hodgers, who was born in Clogherhead in 1843 and emigrated to the United States, and disguised herself as a man and called herself Albert D.J. Cashier, and enlisted in the 95th Illinois Infantry of the Union Army, and served in that role for the entire U.S. Civil War period. And I think it was discovered before she died that she was actually a woman, but she had managed to disguise herself, I think, for most of her life. So perhaps the girls there have heard of her. But again, I was just minded of that. There are many stories of women who have done great things. Anna, normally what I do is, as well, I maybe just make some points, because I did a bit of research today in advance of our hot topic question this evening. And normally what I do is I develop some notes just as a scaffold upon which to structure the conversation. But maybe what I might do is change tack tonight then, slightly. And I'm going to delve right into this week's hot topic question. And this week's hot topic question is, what will be the effect of the government's new national remote work strategy?
Okay, so Melanie, maybe if I can go to you first. Leo Varadkar, as Minister of Enterprise, is hoping to bring legislation before the Dáil that will allow people to work from home if they so wish. That employers will have to be able to facilitate any employees who would like to work from home. And I suppose he's talking about maybe 20-30% of the workforce being able to work from home if they so wish. So what do you think the effect of this legislation will be if it's passed?
I think there are big wins. First off, obviously for families and for the environment, and for people's overall well-being, especially if they can find themselves living in a more natural environment, i.e. outside of the cities. I think we're going to see a lot of decentralisation. It's already been happening. People are moving out of Dublin into the countryside. This can only be good for your well-being in the long run, promise me. I'm a country girl. I've lived in London, Paris, Dublin, and I love the countryside now. Me and my team, we all actually have been working remotely for 3 years. We don't work in an office. I don't like offices. I sit under a tree, or I sit on the sea cliffs, and I sit in the balcony. I sitting on a beanbag right now, and I've got a sofa. I don't really sit at a desk ever, to be honest. I've never been able to do it. Study in school was the same. I could never sit at a desk. So I would be very naturally adapted to that way of work, and I think people will find a way to make it work for them. The most important thing as well is human connection, and the importance, I think, of a healthy routine, if it suits you, to come together, whether it be new sports, new hobbies. And I suppose we'll all gain extra hours that are not wasted in commuting, which is going to be a big win. And hopefully people can find that spare time for family and for TLC and for time in nature, which will be much better spent than it's stuck in the traffic. So I think there's a balance to be met. I think a lot of people have struggled with the pandemic and they might be allergic to working from home after this experience. But for me, it's always been a win-win. But you have to find the right balance between the two worlds. And that's going to be important for people to find that, without the restrictions when they lift. It's really important to look after your well-being, your mental health as well, your physical health too. So not to get stuck in a rut working from home.
Right. Okay. And Myriam, if I can ask you what your views are on this proposed legislation.
Yeah, I'm a freelancer, so I've always I have worked from home for the past couple of years, and I do, like, I used to work in an office in Dublin, and I miss some elements of it. So I think it's definitely great to have the option, to give people the option to make a choice. And as Melanie said, I completely agree with everything she said. I feel like she hasn't really omitted a topic, but yeah, I think for sure finding the balance, and I think ideally finding a time where people can work from home and have a space as well in the office as an option to go work from there would be like the ideal option. But yeah, I think it could only mean good things to give people the choice.
We have this amazing facility that started in Ennistimon last year, isn't it? Last year it was open, like the Office Hub, which is a community office space where you can go 5 minutes from your home, and it's in the main town of Ennistimon, it's the market town of Ennistimon, and you have office, like a communal office, and then there's like extra little rooms aside, and you can rent your space. It's really affordable and great internet, and I think that's the future, really, isn't it? You know, less commuting, better for the environment. Families, when they find the balance and don't want to kill each other, I'm sure it'll work out. But yeah, I think it's definitely the way forward. Yeah.
And I suppose for me personally, what I love about it is the fact that it has the potential to rejuvenate rural Ireland, because as we know, the towns and villages of Ireland have become depleted of all of its young people who have headed to Dublin. And we've I suppose the whole western seaboard depopulated, and then in Dublin, with the huge numbers of people moving in, it's put up huge pressure on the cost of renting, the availability of accommodation, pollution, overcrowding, all of that. And so with working from home, it has the wonderful potential to rejuvenate rural Ireland, that the young people can move back to these rural towns and villages, places like Ennistimon, as you say, where there is a hub, people can go in daily and avail of good internet. And of course, when the lockdown is lifted, people can begin to socialise and get to know each other and have a cup of coffee and all of that. So yeah, I think this is one of the really, really good ideas I think that this government has come up with.
Yeah, it would be like just one disadvantage to the local people who do live in picturesque places in the West, though, is that the housing prices are going up already. That people are choosing to live and move here, so it's kind of the urban sprawl kind of coming west. So that's the only disadvantage. You know, would you agree?
Yeah, I've definitely seen the impact, and there's lots of people after moving down, and it's great to see like the interest. But unfortunately for the local people, it's just meant that a lot of places are being turned into Airbnbs, and
it's nowhere to rent, you know, and the rents are going up, and it's really expensive, and so that's the only disadvantage, I think. But other than that, yeah, you're right. New ideas, new people.
Yeah, it's
always
great.
Good. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
Well, as you say there, you know, people are inclined to flock to lovely places. Like Clare is so scenic. I'm sure the same thing for Connemara, for Donegal. It's along the western seaboard. Yeah. Maybe if the government can provide some kind of an incentive to attract people to parts of the country, let's say, that are less attractive than these beautiful areas.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That will naturally happen, though. That'll naturally happen because the places like Ennistimon or like Dingle will become so expensive that they will start sprawling out to the next village down the road, or, you know, like Milltown has been dead for the last, 15 years. And that's starting to rejuvenate now, you know, so it will, maybe I'll take back what I said, but Yeah, I've just noticed you can't rent in Ennis Diamond. It's not possible. Yeah.
Right. Peter, back to you.
Thanks, Anna. Well, I mean, really, I think all of our guests there have touched on, I think, that, some of the main issues that are going to arise, both good and bad. So very balanced discussion there. Ever the academic, Anna, I did do some Googling today in terms of, some of the kind of reasons underlying it, that being working from home, some of the costs and some of the benefits. And I came across a study by the London School of Economics that concluded that personality traits were critical to whether you or I or anybody else would actually, would really respond well to a home working environment. And they talk about, dimensions of sort of personality traits: conscientiousness and introversion, neuroticism, openness to new experience. So, if you were open to new experiences, and also if you were introverted, you would probably be more likely to really to assimilate and to acclimatize to the environment of home working. And again, it's a point that Melanie made there, that perhaps, it's the law of unintended consequences might kick in, and we might see that a lot of people who have been forced really to work from home might be rather disagreeable to the whole notion of it going forward. The other thing, I know I was privy to a conversation a number of weeks ago, and it ties in a lot of threads, because the schools are still off, much to the chagrin of parents and students alike, and I think pretty much everyone else. That there's pressure on internet services and simply just having enough kit, enough hardware, and devices in households, so that people can work from home, and that children can study and so on. So there's a lot of costs there. The benefits included feelings of autonomy and gratitude towards employers. But again, I'm just thinking to look at it in a balanced way. What if what if going to work and really getting out of the house every day, for example, was an escape from an abusive relationship, or maybe just from a very difficult domestic situation, maybe from a commitment, a caregiving situation, where maybe work is actually just a release to get out of the house for a couple of hours every day. And then I thought, what is work? That again, it raises lots of questions, because who has the luxury actually of remote work, and are these the jobs that really matter? When we see all of the jobs that kept supply lines going, and literally kept the lights on during the pandemic, and kept the shelves stacked and the food grown and supply chains running, or are the types of jobs that are more amenable to working from home, as John Waters has referred to them, the tippy-tappy jobs, or are they the jobs that, as Matthew B. Crawford said, and he wrote a book called Shop Class as Soulcraft, an inquiry into the value of work, which I have to say, one of the best books I've ever read. And are the jobs that are more amenable to working from home, are they jobs that allow us to, as Crawford said, manifest concretely in the world? In other words, to keep us grounded and to keep us rooted in reality, or are jobs that can be done remotely almost anywhere, are they more akin to what David Graeber has referred to as bullshit jobs, as proclaimed by the title of one of his books? So how it's all going to work out, Anna, I'm not sure. I think there is huge potential, however, for regeneration of rural areas, but as against that, what's going to happen, as our guests have said, in the urban areas? I think it's one that's maybe a little bit hard to call, where we are at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter, for that very profound insight. You certainly raised some very important questions there, and you certainly have provided us with a lot of food for thought. I'm just wondering, will our elected representatives be really up to that level of questioning and thinking about this legislation, or will they just go in and do the bidding of the whip, vote as they're told to vote without really thinking what they're voting for or against? So to end tonight's programme, I would just like to go back to our three guests for tonight, just to have a final word. Melanie, if I could begin with you, a final word from you to our viewers who are watching in tonight.
Well, thanks for listening, and I hope it was inspirational talk. And please do go onto the herstory.ie website. You'll find Myriam and Aine's fantastic revolutionary photo essay entitled Sovereignty. You'll find it on the homepage. And also, please, my big request as well is sign the petition to make British Day a national holiday, because we really want to make this happen before 2022. We're going to present the petition to the on 20th of March. So we need as many signatures as possible, and everybody keeps sharing it, but we need more signatures. So yeah, don't be shy. It's on the homepage as well. You'll see it on herstory.ie.
Okay, Melanie, maybe if you just sent over the link to Stephen, and later on when the programme is over, Stephen will actually put the link in the description box so that people can click on it.
Right.
I'll share it on my page tomorrow as well. I'll sign it and share it. So thank you so much for that, Melanie. And now to the ladies in Ennistimon. You girls.
Yeah, I really want to encourage people to go check out Aine's essays, because they really go hand in hand with the images, and they really help give a backstory to the visuals, and I think they really develop on the themes and the stories of the models. So it's really important to read along with them, and I hope you find them really inspiring and really empowering.
Her story, yeah, just keep in touch with her story, because whatever is happening, it's happening there.
Okay. So we'll have to put in the link to the website, so we'll find, I take it that we'll be able to find all the materials and the stories, everything on her story on the website. Is that correct?
It is herstory.ie. All the mischief is happening there, and there's a lot more mischief to come as well. Yeah, we're only warming up in Her Story HQ. You haven't seen anything yet. Yeah.
Herstory.ie. Girls, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this evening. Congratulations on what you have done. Your achievements are monumental, and yeah, it makes me proud to be part of Mná na hÉireann. And for the men who are looking in as well, men are hugely supportive of the work that women do, and of course, you know, they're really, men are, you men that are watching in tonight, I know that you're deeply connected to your mothers and to your wives, to your daughters, and indeed to your feminine side. So I want to thank all of my guests tonight, Melanie, Myriam and Áine. And as always, I want to thank Peter for his wonderful contribution. And this wouldn't be possible were it not for Stephen and his platform, The Irish Inquiry. I want to thank you as well for watching in. I hope that you found the stories tonight inspirational. I certainly did. We'll be back again, please God, next Wednesday evening as usual, putting the spotlight on some other issue. That will be at 9 o'clock next Wednesday evening. So if you weren't tuned in at the start of the programme, please go to the Irish Inquiry website, go to the drop-down box, and you will be able to offer your technical skills there, or a few bob to keep the lights on and to keep the show on the road. So until next week, have a wonderful week, and Banat de Arif Galer.